One of the things about many of the objects in the collection, and many of those we've actually selected for this 100 Objects exhibition, is simplicity. Things that they don't look very exciting at all when you see them, but it is the circumstances or the personal story that's behind them. During the Second World War, just like the First, the regiment expanded. Probably 20-odd thousand men served in its ranks. One of the key campaigns that involved 3 of our units and also the local regiment of Territorial Army gunners, 51st Field Regiment, served in Burma. And from one unit that was there in India at the outbreak of war, the others joined them. And they were actively involved in the stages of the Burma campaign from late 1943, really to the end of the war. Initially to stop the Japanese attempt to invade India in late 43 and through the early months of 1944, and then from late 44 and then 45 the reconquest of Burma. One of the simplest things about the soldiers serving in Burma is logistically operating in Burma was a real problem. There aren't that many roads and railway systems, and in many cases resupply was determined by aircraft. Transport was largely mules rather than vehicles, and soldiers had to carry extremely heavy loads. They could compare notes with our soldiers serving in Afghanistan and Iraq in terms of the weight that they carried. And one of the simplest items we have in the collection is this half woolen blanket. It looks dead ordinary, which it absolutely is, but it's a half woolen blanket. Soldiers of our 9th Battalion carried these, and the idea of the half blanket was enough to cover you, but it was less heavy than having a whole blanket. And this particular one belonged to a guy called Joe Cardiff. Joe Cardiff hailed from Bury. He was conscripted, I think, from his regimental number in 1942-43, and went out to join the 9th Battalion in India and served with them in the Burma campaign. He was in the signal platoon, as I say, and he was killed in action in late March 1944 in Burma. And Sergeant Sam Wilson from Penrith helped to bury Joe Cardiff. They marked the grave, and Sam, according to his son, buried Joe in his own blanket and then carried Joe's blanket with him for the rest of the campaign and brought it home with him. So this very simple bit of woolen blanket Sam felt very attached to. Joe Cardiff was a young guy, he was only 20 when he was killed, and clearly they were able to mark the grave, and the marking survived because he was later moved to the large cemetery at Imphal. So he's buried in Imphal Cemetery. So the parents who lived in Bury in Lancashire at least knew he had a known grave. But it is so incredibly simple, but it's so poignant. So a young man a long way away from home, in probably what was one of the toughest campaigns that our regiment has ever participated in. So to look at it, it's nothing, but historically the story says it all.